A federal judge imposed 13 death sentences this morning against reputed drug pin Kaboni Savage. Jurors unanimously approved the sentence for Savage last week. They had convicted the 38-year-old former boxer turned drug kingpin for the murders of 12 people, 6 of whom died in a firebombing he had ordered from prison. The 13th death sentence comes from a conviction for retaliating against a witness. The 2004 blaze targeted relatives of a witness who was planning to testify against Savage.
Kaboni Savage was born in 1975, the youngest of George and Barbara Savage's children in North Philadelphia's Hunting Park neighborhood. His father died when Kaboni was around 13, and his family struggled financially. Savage attended Frankfort High School and briefly pursued boxing at the Front Street Gym, even winning one professional bout. But without a father and growing up in a neighborhood saturated with crack cocaine dealers, the lure of quick money pulled him into the drug trade by his late teens. By the late 1990s, Kaboni had transformed from a small-time dealer into a bold narcotics organizer. Leveraging connections, discipline from boxing, and street ruthlessness, he began bulk purchasing kilograms of cocaine and distributing through a tightly run operation across Philadelphia. From around 1998 to 2004, authorities estimate he trafficked hundreds of kilos weekly, serving not just local corners, but entire rackets in North Philadelphia. His violent hierarchy, backed by hit squads and networked enforcers, Savage operated on a war footing. He used gruesome violence and intimidation to expand his empire. Investigators tied Savage to at least 12 murders between 1998 and 2004. Rival dealers and potential witnesses. What made Savage particularly notorious was his code. No witness equals no crime. He ruled by fear, executed those who crossed him, and retaliated fiercely against anyone cooperating with law enforcement. Everything hinged on silence. That control became most lethal when Eugene Coleman, a member of Savage's organization, agreed to testify in a federal drug case. Rather than stand down, Savage ordered an act of mass violence that would define his cruelty. On October 9, 2004, while Savage was detained at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia, he issued orders via phone calls and visits, including through his sister, Kaboni Savage, Lil Sis, to assassins Lamont Lewis and Robert Merritt. The victims, Coleman's elderly mother, Marcella Coleman, and 5 others in her row house, including 4 children aged 15 months to 15 years and a teenage friend. On Savage's instruction, Lewis fired warning shots. Merritt threw 2 gasoline cans into the house. Moments later, the fire engulfed the home. No one survived. The horror shocked Philadelphia. The FBI described the firebombing as an extreme case of witness intimidation. Savage had cornered the market on the brutality of retaliation, intimidation, kidnapping, execution from behind bars. He was indicted in a sweeping 26-count, charging him and 4 others with racketeering, drug trafficking, murder for hire, money laundering, witness intimidation, and arson resulting in death. Tape-recorded evidence played a key role. In his cell, Savage was captured joking about the firebombing victims, reportedly saying they should get barbecue sauce. Next, he called the victims rats. His words haunted prosecutors and shook jurors in the 2013 trial. Months earlier, in 2005, Savage had already gone to trial on drug trafficking, money laundering, and witness intimidation charges, and was sentenced to 30 years. He had testified in his own defense, admitting he ranted out of frustration but denied intending violence. Yet the indictment that followed, bolstered by cooperating witness testimony, exposed a far darker reality. He led what officials called, perhaps the most violent drug gang ever seen in the city of Philadelphia. Kaboni Savage received life sentences, while Merritt and Northington also drew life terms. Lamont Lewis, who testified against Savage, cooperated, pleaded guilty, and received 40 years. Despite Savage's cold declarations and overt brutality, some public defenders argued claims of double jeopardy and flaws in testimony. Savage maintained his innocence during trial, pressing that his recorded statements were emotional outbursts, not orders. He never expressed remorse formally. He remained unrepentant, even after conviction, refusing to admit guilt in the public record. From 2013 to 2020, Savage remained on federal death row. His conviction survived appeals, and the Third Circuit confirmed his death sentence in August 2020. Alongside public outrage, Savage's case became a lightning rod in debates over the death penalty and witness protection policy. Philadelphia and national law enforcement used his example to highlight the necessity for witness security protocols under threat from violent gangs. Then on December 23, 2024,
37 federal inmates who were sentenced to die for their crimes will now instead spend the rest of their life in prison. President Biden moved today to commute their sentences, an act he said was guided by his conscience. One of those inmates, Philadelphia drug kingpin Kaboni Savage, convicted of the killing of 12 people, including 4 children. Those youngest victims died when Savage ordered the firebombing of the house where they lived in an act of retribution against a witness. Action News reporter Annie McCormick has details tonight and reaction.
Philadelphia's only federal death row inmate, Kaboni Savage, is no longer on death row. The former North Philadelphia drug kingpin joined 37 federal death row inmates commuted by President Joe Biden today.
I'm very disappointed at Joe Biden.
The news left Tina Fox and her family in shock.
This crime is beyond violent.
Inside this North 6th Street home in 2004, many of Fox's relatives were murdered at Savage's direction. Fox's cousin, Eugene Coleman, became a federal informant against Savage. The fire killed 2 adults, including Coleman's mother, and 4 children, including an infant.
They were children. They would have been adults now, but they don't have a say. You can't hear their voice, and they were killed innocently.
Savage was convicted of those murders that he ordered from prison. He was also found guilty in 6 other murders, including a man scheduled to testify against him and rival drug dealers.
The national trend has been going away from the death penalty.
Defense attorney Fortunato Perry Jr. does not represent Kaboni Savage, but said that Biden's announcement is not a surprise after seeing a major push by critics of the death penalty to abolish it nationwide. As for what this means for Savage moving forward,
that simply means that the individual will remain incarcerated with a life sentence as opposed to an effort to have him executed down the road. That's something that now can never happen.
In a statement, President Joe Biden said that America must move away from using the federal death penalty except in cases of terrorism or hate-motivated mass murder.
President Joe Biden commuted Savage's death sentence, along with 36 other inmates, to life in prison without parole, citing moral opposition to federal executions except in terrorism or hate-motivated mass murder cases. Although spared execution, Savage now serves out his days in ADX Florence, the notorious federal supermax known for near-total isolation and extreme security, conditions described by many as worse than death. Savage's legacy is one of organized brutality and lethal message sending. Though not as public as other urban legends from Detroit or Harlem, the chilling firebombing of innocents, ordered from prison, is etched into Philadelphia's criminal folklore. Law enforcement often cites Savage's case when reinforcing the rule that cooperation must be protected and that retaliatory violence from behind bars is a real danger. To his supporters, he was a product of broken neighborhoods, abandoned youth, and systemic poverty. To his victims and critics, he was pure evil, able to commit mass murder without remorse and callously mock it on tape. His sister Kidada was condemned alongside him and remains imprisoned with no parole, a rare case of a family member directly implicated in lethal retribution for a drug boss's orders. Today, Kaboni Savage is incarcerated at ADX Florence, federal prison number 58232-066. He remains serving life without parole, a punishment that, while legal, continues to spark debate on federal sentencing policies, prison reform, and how the justice system handles violent organized crime figures. For Urban Legends Mag TV, Kaboni Savage embodies the darkest edge of the underworld, a drug kingpin whose reign reached into homes, whose code demanded silence at any cost, and whose case stands as an urban legend darker than most fiction. His story is a cautionary chronicles of modern crime, ambition fused with deadly vengeance, family betrayal, moral voids, and judicial extremes.
A federal judge imposed 13 death sentences this morning against reputed drug pin Kaboni Savage. Jurors unanimously approved the sentence for Savage last week. They had convicted the 38-year-old former boxer turned drug kingpin for the murders of 12 people, 6 of whom died in a firebombing he had ordered from prison. The 13th death sentence comes from a conviction for retaliating against a witness. The 2004 blaze targeted relatives of a witness who was planning to testify against Savage.